Welcome to our online education training series. Today we're going to be talking about how to operate your EnteraLite Infinity feeding pump. Hi, I'm Nakia. I'm the registered dietitian with Life Support Systems, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your EnteraLite Infinity pump. What you'll need is your pump and your IV pole, your formula, and also your feeding bag. And I will show you how to get everything all set up. Before you turn on your pump, you want to take your feeding bag out of the plastic that it comes into. You're going to open it up and hang it on the IV pole so that it is steady and in place. And then you can wrap the tubing around the pole as well. When you grab your formula, you're always going to want to shake it so that there's no settling. You want to make sure everything gets mixed up well. So you'll shake your formula up just slightly, and then you'll open and you'll pour the allotted amount into the feeding bag. So we will do that now. Make sure that when you have your feeding bag hanging, you make sure this part in the back is not sticking to the inside of it, because it will splash back at you. So you wanted to stick your finger and pull that through so that nothing will splash back at you when you pour your formula into the bag. Once you've done that and you've shook your formula, you'll take and pour the allotted amount into the bag. And we'll just do a little bit for demonstration purposes. Once you've put the allotted amount of formula in the bag, you want to take your cap and push and close to the right so that everything is secure. Once you've closed your bag, you don't want to reopen it so that you don't introduce any type of contaminant. So be sure you put the correct amount before you close the bag so that way it can stay closed for the duration of the feeding. Once you have your formula in the bag, it's now time to hook up the bag and the tubing to your pump. Before we turn it on, you're going to open the top flap of your pump here. And you will take the stretchy part of the tubing that's attached to the bag, and you will thread it around the circle part here, and it stretches over just like a rubber band, and it will pull and go right into the cassette there. Once you close it, make sure you click it shut. The pump won't run unless it's clicked shut completely. Now we can turn on our pump. On the pump, on the very top, is the on-off button. You're going to hold that button down until it beeps, and that's how you know that your pump is on. It will go through a series of numbers before it settles on the rate button here. So you're going to go ahead and set your rate on the rate dose button, which is in the middle column on the very bottom. If you hit rate, it's going to show a number in mils per hour. That's where you're going to put your rate, how many mils per hour you're going. If you hit the rate dose button one more time, it should show a setting that's called INF. If it doesn't show that setting, you're just going to push the plus button until it gets to INF. You'll just hold down the plus button. What that means is that it's just going to give an infinite dose. It's going to run until the bag is empty. So if you put the allotted amount of formula in the bag, you've set your rate, and you keep the dose at INF, it will run for your allotted amount of time, and when the bag is empty, it will beep at you. Once you've set your rate and your dose, it's now time to prime your pump before you hook it up to the patient. So at the very end of the tubing that's attached to your bag, you're going to take off the cap here, and you can dispose of that. It's just a clear plastic cap. You can dispose of that and set it to the side. And we want to go ahead and prime the pump. And the purpose of that is to get all of the air, excess air, out of the bag and the tubing prior to hooking up the patient so that air does not go into the patient's abdomen. On your pump, in the very left column in the middle, there's a prime button, and that's what we're going to use to prime. You're going to hold down that button, and when you do, you'll start to see the formula flow through the tubing. It'll flow all the way through, and as it does, it's going to be pushing the air all the way through this tubing, and you want to push it all the way at least until it gets to the purple part of the tube, or until it drips out a couple of times. That's how you know all the air has been removed from the tubing and none is going to go into the patient's stomach. Once you've primed completely, which would be all the way to the end of the purple, you hold the prime button until there. Once it gets all the way to the end, or it's dripped out a couple of times, you can now hook it to the patient into their G-tube. Once you insert this tip into the patient's G-tube, you're now ready to feed. Once it's inserted, on the very left column on the bottom, there's a run pause button. Run is the same as start. Pause will stop it or pause it. You'll hit the run button and your pump will beep and you'll start to hear the motor run. On the screen, you should see arrows moving in a circle. That's an indication that your pump is working and the formula is pushing through, as you can see it going through the tubing. If you need to stop and do a water flush before the pump is completed, then you'll hit the pause button one more time. Once you unhook the patient and do the water flush, you will simply hit run again. And this can be for any reason that you may need to start the pump. Once the pump runs, if you let it go without stopping, it'll run for your desired amount of time or allotted amount of time or the amount of formula that you've placed into the bag. Once it is completed, your pump will beep. At that point, you can go ahead and hit the on-off button to turn it off. Once everything is complete, you'll hold it down, your pump will beep, and it will go off. You'll lift open the top of the pump to unload the cassette and to also remove the bag. Each bag is only allotted to be used for 24 hours. So once you've hit that 24-hour mark or you've completed your feeding for the day, you will take the entire bag and the tubing and you will discard it. It cannot be reused again. Once it's completed, all you will have to do is just close your pump. Once you close your pump and have it off, then you can set it aside until it's time for your next feeding. And that's how you operate your EnteraLite Infinity feeding pump.